Remember when they were 2-0 EB? It's been a while.
Mm-hmm. Well, I also remember when we were coming in here harping on Jack and the defense every week. And listen, the defense still statistically doesn't rank very highly. They're very, very low, actually, 29, 30, 31.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't blame the defense, I'm sorry, last week. And now people are starting to turn a little bit on the offense. Ron, of course, had his Monday presser, and he was asked about the offensive philosophy.
I'm curious on one thing. A lot of times in the past, when you've had some of these games where a lot of pass heavy and not getting enough points or whatever, and you always go back to saying, we need to get back to what your identity is or what you want the identity to be as a run team. Do you feel like that now? Do you feel like you're okay with how things have been called or going in that way?
I've been fine with what we've tried to do offensively. As far as I'm concerned, and look at some of the biggest things, again, it really is about the development of this young quarterback. There's been a lot of positives that you see coming out of some of the things that Sam has been doing. And, as far as that's concerned, like you see his decision making has been really good in terms of, where he's, who he's throwing the ball to. Some things he can clean up is the type of throws that he's making. Whether he's trying to loft the ball or he needs to put the ball on the line a little bit. We saw a little bit of that yesterday, but he's been really good at it, and just really appreciate his development and growth. I think that's one of the big important things for us.
It is wild when you think about it because you know how Ron used to talk about how he wanted, like a 2-to-1 run-to-pass ratio?
Right.
I mean, when we always kind of mock that.
What was he? When did he say that?
That was the off season.
Was that in the off season?
Or like right after the season wrapped?
Yeah, but I mean, you saw that. Like they pointed to a game where
now it's
the last game of the year when Sam
yeah.
Howell was the starting quarterback, the last game of the season against the Cowboys, it was that ratio. He barely threw the ball,
and we mocked it. But
well, you're not going to ask a guy who's making his very first start to throw 2-to-1.
Right, I didn't have a problem. But it is interesting that it's completely flipped now.
Yeah,
and and I think it was a welcome change. We all wanted that. So I'm not going to blame. I actually am
It's out of whack. It's askew. It's almost 3-1. They had success against the Eagles when it was much closer. They're not as behind as you think. A lot of this is happening in the first half when they're not really behind.
Well, you're down 7-0. Okay, it's not catastrophic, but
that doesn't mean you just have to pass all the time.
No, but there's still a little bit of a sense of urgency when you're down.
It's not just because of that. They're doing this on opening drives. They're doing it over and over again. He prefers to pass, which is fine if you're successful at it. But what Keim is pointing out there, and the question is, and kind of what we're alluding to is they have had some success when it's been the other script, when it's been a much more balanced game.
Usually it's only because they're ahead.
You know what? I think Bieniemy looks at his running back room and he goes, nobody in here is special. Nobody here is doing anything extraordinary.
Well, I think
I'm going to pass the ball more.
They're a product of everyone's a product of the offensive line.
So you don't think they need to be more balanced? I think they do. I think that's part of the reason that Howell is getting sacked so often.
Well, it's not like you have Christian McCaffrey or Derrick Henry in his prime in this backfield that you're going to feed the ball to those guys a ton.
I'm not saying that, but it keeps the defense off balance.
I thought Robinson and Gibson would be better and more effective, and for some reason they're not.
I mean,
I don't
Rodriguez got like 7 carries this past week.
Yeah.
Like
they're going to start implementing him.
He's starting to eat into Robinson's workload.
But JP, think about this. All right, Cardinals game, I agree with you. But Broncos game, they were down 21-3, so you see a lot of passing in the second half just to get kind of in the game. Bills game, they were getting pummeled, so they kind of had to throw. They got beat badly. Eagles game, there was a balance, and that was the best game they had played offensively. Bears game, we saw what happened. Had to kind of throw a lot to get back in that game.
Right. I think that's what it is.
So in at least 3 of the games, you could see why they had to throw the ball a little bit more.
And they also had to do that in the first couple games because they were down early.
Well, I mentioned the Broncos game, yeah.
Yeah. So, whatever.
But Bieniemy likes to throw the ball.
Right.
He's calling the plays. He likes to have Hal drop back. He doesn't want to run 2-1.
I'll be honest with you. When I'm watching a game, I'm not watching it going, wow, I wish we handed off there.
Well,
I'm not thinking that.
I can tell you this. They're not going to be doing it a lot this weekend because the Eagles allow 63 rushing yards per game. So if you're looking to get back to that more balanced approach, I'd be shocked if it happened this week.
I think the game plan they had against the Eagles the first time was their best offensive output, and they did have more balance. And my point on the run is not that you're necessarily going to have a 6-yard run on, let's say, 2nd and 8, but you keep the defense off balance a little bit. When you're just dropping back over and over again, the defensive ends, these edge defenders, they know it, and they can just, boom, go after the passer versus every once in a while, you know what, run at them. And maybe you're only going to get a couple yards.
Here's
but
the
on
problem,
2nd and
Eric.
8, instead of getting sacked, maybe you end up with 3rd and 6,
Yeah, but you
which is
shouldn't
more
be
manageable.
getting sacked on 2nd and 8 when you just do
Well,
like
the
a
problem
quick
is-
3-step drop, rip.
I agree. They could do more of that. But this quarterback, it's a problem. I was listening to Craig Hoffman when I was driving around yesterday, and he went through the film, and I respect him going through the film. And he said his initial thought watching the game the first time was this was a Bieniemy issue. But then he saw a bunch of outlet passes for Howell that he wasn't taking. And so he ended up saying he put more of the blame in this game for the sacks on Sam Howell.
Well, he can. I know Nick Akridge, who writes for PFF, he put 0.
I saw that
He
tweet.
put 0.
And then I
Eyes of
saw
beholder.
somebody
on-
combat
on-
that tweet.
on Howell.
Yeah. Here's the problem. The passing offense right now is the weakness because of the fact that he's getting sacked so much because the offensive line is so bad. So when you're relying on that so much at 2-1 or 3-1, that's an issue right now.
Well, by my count, their last 20 possessions, 14 have ended in punt.
Yeah.
That's an absurd amount.
Listen.
So that's why they're going to have to get more of a balance. And maybe they get back to that against the Eagles, but I think the Eagles are certainly going to make adjustments.
The balance takes
based
care
on
of
the first one.
itself. It doesn't create the winning, in my opinion. It's a product of winning.
Well, I think the balance can also work. I think play action passes.
I agree. You gotta have play
They
action.
are in the
All that stuff.
shotgun all the time. I wouldn't mind seeing them under center every once in a while. And I think as a team, they're running for 4.2 yards per carry. Now, some of that includes Sam Howell's runs. Robinson, not great, 3.8. Gibson's at 4.2 yards per carry. Rodriguez is at 4.4 yards per carry, very limited.
Here's a little nugget on how devastating sacks are. And this is from Rich Rebar at Lord Reeves on Twitter. NFL per drive performance in 2023 when a drive does not have a sack. 40% scoring rate, 24% touchdown rate, and 2.1 points per drive. When you have a sack on a drive, the scoring rate falls to 22%. The touchdown rate goes from 24 to 6%, and you get 0.93 points
It's
per
a big
drive.
difference.
Drive
It's
Well,
killers.
that's
huge.
obvious. I mean,
It's
that's
huge.
pretty much an obvious
They're
stat,
drive
but-
killers.
Yeah.
All right, so what else did Ron say that interested you?
Well, I also, before
Well, what interested that Ron came out of Ron's mouth? Probably zero.
Nothing? Okay.
Probably nothing.
Well, that we could throw around.
Well, he was asked about John Allen's comments because John was obviously frustrated after the game. And here's Ron's take on that.
Ron, after the game, some of the players were obviously visibly frustrated, said some things. I'm sure you heard some of the comments from Jonathan Allen. What do you gauge from those comments, and do you like seeing that from your players? Is that a concern? How do you kind of view what was said after the game?
Yeah, there was one player that made a comment that I'm aware of, and yeah, he's disappointed, as is everybody else, and I can't dispute it just because he's a very passionate football player that wants to win. I get it. We all want to win. We're all passionate about this game. We want to win, and that's the bottom line. And frustration sometimes gets the best of us, and we've got to be able to handle that as well. Trust me, I get frustrated when I get up in front of you guys and I listen to some of the questions, and you know, I want to be able to say some of the things that I really wish I could, but I can't. And that's what Jonathan felt. So, you know, I can understand it and I can appreciate that. So got nothing but respect for how hard the young man plays and what the young man is trying to do, and that's win football games.
And kind of along those lines, you know, with the frustration theme, fans are frustrated as well. And, you know, some today are kind of questioning the vision and the plan of this team over these last 4 years with this loss from the Giants. I guess my question is, do you understand that perspective from the fans? And secondly, what makes you believe things will go differently over these next couple of months?
That game yesterday, who had every chance to win. And unfortunately, we didn't do it. And I understand our fans' frustration. Hell, I hear it too. Okay, and I respect them. We're trying to play the best football we can, and at the same time grow a football team. You know, we're not going to go around cutting a bunch of people, trading for a whole bunch of people, trying to hire a whole bunch of people. We're trying to develop a young football team to be a very good football team for the future, and that's what we're going to continue to work on. We're going to continue to find ways to win football games, and we'll do the best we can. We'll show up, we'll work very hard, we'll do everything we can, and we'll continue to be committed to try and put a good product on the football field and give our fans something to cheer about. But we understand their frustration, believe me, because there's a lot of us that are frustrated here because we're working our butts off.
So that was a weird cut. Why? Because Scott just kept meandering or something?
No,
Like, I don't
no.
understand.
It's just, when you're recording from Zoom and the meetings through Zoom, and just sometimes
There's a delay.
there's just a delay. Or it's
so
just
that was
it's
on
just a
their end.
computer
Okay,
cut.
gotcha. Okay, it was a glitch. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, that's all right.
Gotcha. Because then, you could hear, because Scott, God bless Scott. Scott doesn't care. He'll ask anything. He'll poke you. He poked the
But
bear.
Ron
And
says-
finally got a little pissy.
Ron says the same thing. His responses are the same every single week, especially after losses. I mean,
yeah, but he was amped up there. He was amped up there.
yeah, I know. It just
He
seems seems like it's the same thing every week.
What I always say is, who cares if he's enthusiastic, if he's fiery, if he's not? It's about the results, and they are losing a bunch of games.
And they're going to lose another one this week.
Yeah.
And that's going to be 5 of 6.
And it does seem like the majority of people in that Junkies poll of the day, brought to you by Van Meter Homes, are in favor of a hypothetical interim head coaching stint for Eric Bieniemy.
Well, I think
And I
also-
even couched it in the question with, despite his lack of success as an offensive coordinator.
Right. I think also if you listen to what Ron said, though, in there, is that we're not going to trade a bunch of players. I'm telling you, I don't think they're going to trade anybody at this deadline. And
There
I
aren't
don't
many
think
guys
that
get traded.
Harris is going to jump in and demand trades either.
If he, though, has somebody, what I read before he took over as the owner, it was somebody who looked at his ownership stints elsewhere, and they said that Harris's MO is he brings in his own people. And some of these people, they have worked in both sports, hockey and in the NBA. And they look at things analytically and the numbers. And if he has one of those guys kind of as a consultant, not necessarily working with the team right now, but just
On the
following
side.
the team,
I'm sure he does.
like a consulting firm does in the world of business, and they may be presenting to him, kind of as Cake said, outside of Ron Rivera, outside of Martin Mayhew and Marty Herney, maybe saying, hey, this is the situation. These two guys are going to be free agents. Here's the situation with the salary cap. You better get something or you're going to lose at least one of these guys for your free agency and get nothing. So maybe trade them for a 4th-round pick, a 3rd-round pick, whatever. They might have a value chart for
I'm
what
sure
Chase
they-
Young is
they
worth
of
and
course
what
they will.
Montez Sweat is worth right now.
Yeah. If it's a bad,
Possible. I understand what you're saying.
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that happens either.
Yeah.
Like if they fall to 3-5 and you know that the odds of them making the playoffs are slim.
Well, now you run the risk of meddling owner, and I'm just telling you, I don't think that's going to happen. I hear you.
I don't think it's going to happen either, but
I hear you. I think it's plausible, but then you're going to run the risk of him being accused of being a meddling
I don't
owner.
think Diana Rossini and Ben Standig and all these people are making it up. Now, do they execute a
hold on.
trade?
Nobody thinks they're making it up. But like Kime reported, people have been calling the Skins for months.
Yeah, but
about
they may
Chase.
be calling Herney and Ron. Though, if Harris decides to do something as the owner, he can supersede anything that Ron or
right.
the Herneys
Do you
or the
think he
Martys
would,
want to
though?
do.
You think he would?
I think it's possible.
He's got here a month ago.
I think it's totally possible.
I think I don't know enough about the hockey team, but I know his basketball team makes big moves.
Did he do it right away?
Well, he bought into the trust the process deal,
Maybe this will be
which was early.
his big first
Then he started
move
taking
here.
big swings with Daryl Morey trading. I mean, they've taken big swings. The 76ers.
Look, if Chase Young is not in your long-term plans, whether you're Ron Rivera or not, you should get something for him if he has value. Is
How
the
do
way
we
I would
know?
look at
How
it.
do we know he's not in your long-term plans? He's
I
now.
don't
He's
know
having
that.
a career
I
resurgence.
don't know that because I don't know who the next GM is going
I
to be.
just can't imagine you can sign 3 huge contracts or 4 on one unit.
Right.
I think you got to spread it out a little
And
bit more.
also on an underperforming unit. They're not playing up
Yeah.
to the level you expected them to play.
the other
to.
thing is,
But you know what? Everybody else in that office might say, you know what? Okay, we've lost 3 out of 4. Look, I don't believe this, myself, but they probably look at it and go, we still have a shot at the playoffs.
Of course, they're looking at Minnesota. They're going, Minnesota started 0-3. And
Right, now they're 3-4. So now that they have the extra wild card, you can have a subpar
they
record.
Don't look at it like we do. Like,
right.
Loser.
We're looking at it going, they're not good enough to make the playoffs. They're not thinking that way.
No, they're looking at it going, we got 10 games to
So
right
I
the
don't
ship.
know why they would just give up and start trading away assets.
Exactly.
But you might have somebody also looking at, and I'm on the fence with Sam Howell. The sack thing is a definite issue.
Mm-hmm.
It's undeniable. Happened in college. It's happening in the pros. He's been sacked 40 times. I understand some of it's on the offense, some of it's on the play calling, but it's a Sam Howell.
Hey, let me
thing.
flip it around.
It's a Sam Howell thing. What I was
Why
going to
don't
say
they-
is,
let me flip it around.
Hold on, let me finish it. They might need to save money for a quarterback. Okay.
True.
And if you keep throwing money at the defense. We've talked about it. It's a skew in the NFL.
What do you think
can
they're
get
gonna
away
do,
with
sign
it.
a free agent
You can get
quarterback?
away with
They're
it when
not
you have
gonna
two
sign a
quarterbacks.
free agent
Well,
quarterback.
Kirk Cousins is going to be available.
I don't
see
see
it.
it happening, but
Of course, we don't see it happening, but he is going to be
I
available.
think the next quarterback would be someone they draft in the first round.
Okay.
But let me just say this. Let me flip it around. What about going out and getting somebody instead of trading off pieces?
Hold on, they're going to be buyers?
What, an offensive lineman?
Right.
They're struggling at that unit.
Okay, maybe if somebody, a premium guy becomes available, but
I'm not saying it's going to be a Trent Williams.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, could you increase your chances of
100%
winning some games
there's a
and
100%
add
chance
to that unit?
They could get somebody better than Gates and Wiley.
I mean, I don't know if they're going to be buyers, but I'm just saying I see them being buyers more than sellers.
oh, I see them being sellers more than buyers.
All right, well, we'll see.
I don't see them loading up for any sort of grasp or playoff run, but maybe I'm wrong.
I'm just saying they don't think they're completely out of this
Right.
yet.